on there today, everybody? This is Michael out in Maui. Aloha. So if you've been enjoying all the content that I've been putting out, I recommend subscribing to the channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified every single time I put out a new video. So today, I wanted to talk about probably one of the most controversial things I ever hear on teaching and how to throw the disc. And that's, how tight do you hold onto the disc? How tight do you keep your arm to throw the disc? I think this is probably one of the biggest things I keep hearing, out there, is just how tight do you hold on to the disc and grip pressure. So back in the early days, I don't know, like when I learned, back when I learned, I was at the tail end of like the era of maybe a little more of a loose throwing style. I learned, I don't know how long it's been now, 16 years ago, 17 years ago is when I started to play disc golf. And I remember watching videos and the guys would always hold their disc really loose. They would actually wiggle the disc like this. And then they would run up to throw, just like that. They'd hold the disc like this. They'd run up, come up, and throw. So they had a lot more relaxed style of throw, at least in the videos that I used to watch, for a tutorial. But I never adopted any of that because to me, it never made sense to hold loose on the disc at all. I'm assuming their premise was to keep tension, no tension so you could throw harder. But the thing is, gripping the disc has nothing to do with body tension. I can hold my grip on this disc and my forearm as tight as I can, and it's not going to affect anything. Everything moves even though I'm strangulating the disc right now. So the concept of holding the disc loose, to me, doesn't make sense. Because if you have a loose grip and you run up and you get to this point here where you're going to pull to throw the disc. Well, to pull and throw the disc, you have to tighten your arm. You're going to tighten your arm to pull the disc. So for me, I just reach back with my arm already tight. I don't want to try to run up with a loose grip and then get here and then try to tighten my arm to throw, because once you get here and this front foot hits the ground, you're throwing the disc. 2 seconds later, you're throwing the disc. And that 2 seconds, you have to go from a loose grip to a tight grip and then throw. And so it just doesn't make sense to even try to do that. So for me, you just take a tight grip, tight forearm, tight grip, and you reach back with it already tight. And I'm loose, like all this isn't, there's nothing here to hinder me, But to throw hard, you have to hold on to the disc as tight as you can to throw it. I can throw over 400 feet, and I do it with the tight grip. I always hold tight arm, tight grip, 400-foot throw. One of the main things about, holding on to the disc tight is when you're holding tight on the grip, the whole idea is to try to get the wrist to snap here on the release of the throw, to give you extra power on your throw. For that to happen, you can see, like, when you're coming out, how your disc is on at 9 o'clock and you release it at 12. So as I'm pulling forward, you're right here. The disc is at 9 o'clock. So once the disc gets to here, your arm's extended, that's when it fires through. But what makes it fire through? You know, how are you going from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock? What's making that happen? It happens because of the tightness of your arm. If I pull through to throw and my arm's tight, it's going to keep a slight bend on the release of the disc. So I'm going to be right here. There's going to be a slight bend in my wrist. My arm's tight. But right here, the disc shoots forward because my arm is tight. It's going to stop your arm momentarily, just like that. The arm stops. Because your arm's maxed out right here. You know, my arm can't go farther. This is maxed out. Tight grip stops my arm, little bend right there. That's when your wrist fires, is right at that moment. Right when your arm maxes out here straight, then the wrist fire. The wrist fires because of the tension in your arm. If you have a loose grip all the way out to release, what makes the wrist fire? You know, there's nothing here to make it fire against. It's just really relaxed. I mean, your hand comes through and you just let go of it because, you know, the wrist is just out in front. But if you really want to put a pop on it, you gotta throw, you know, with a tight arm so the wrist can push harder when it stops right here. And the wrist will fire forward faster. It's just like putting. You know, I've noticed this with my putt. If you putt and you take your arm straight all the way out here, you know, completely straight, it's really hard to get anything on the disc because your arm is completely straightened and it's really hard to push with your fingers because your whole arm is straightened. You know, you're here, you're all the way out here with it, and now you're trying to use your wrist to put some power on the putt. But if you put a little bit of tension in your arm and you let a little bit of a bend, like you don't go straight, you keep your putt slightly bent. Well, now when you come forward, see my arm's slightly bent, and that's what's going to allow my wrist to snap through harder because my arm stopped. You following? The disc on a putt is at 9 o'clock, just like your throw. If I come forward and stop my arm, my wrist fires. See? Little bit of a bend stops my arm here. So now my wrist fires through here. If I extend my arm all the way out, you're literally just trying to flip it with your fingers here. So if you're all the way out here straight, you know, you have nothing, you know, you can't push with your wrist because your arm is completely straightened. So when you putt and when you throw, it's all about the arm tension, and it's really, I mean, that little bend in your arm is what it's all about. Getting the disc to stop, you know, the arm to stop, a little bit of a bend, so your wrist goes from 9 and then pushes forward to 12 because your arm stopped. And that all happens because of arm tension. And putting's the same thing. You know, you're here, when you putt, it's here, and your arm has a little bit of a bend that allows your fingers to snap through. So throwing with a tight arm is, you know, very important. You know, it's the only way I throw. Like I said, like all my throws are from a tight grip type arm, you know. So, but anyways, I just recommend, you know, trying it, you know, just tighten up your grip and see how it goes, you know. So for me, a tight grip, you know, tight arm, you know, that's the throw. Tighten up everything right here and then throw. I got more power on that shot from a tight grip. So anyways, this is Michael out in Maui. Aloha.